Well, hello! Mwah, 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 mwah. Welcome back to the Magical Mystery School and Symbols of the Tarot, Class 1. And we're going to just talk about the decks today, different kinds of decks and what we're going to be using in this class. So first off, make yourself a budget, because if you get into tarot cards, you're going to be like, oh, I like that deck, I like that deck, and you're going to be buying all sorts of decks. The first thing I want to mention is that there is a big difference between oracle cards and tarot cards. Now, the great psychic Susan Lynn, who's on YouTube, she best described it. I'm paraphrasing what she said, but she said that oracle cards are like you ask your friend, do I need to lose some weight? And your friend says, well, if you wanted to lose a few pounds, I think that'd be great. The tarot cards, if you ask them, well, should I lose some weight? They're like, oh, I'm so glad you asked. You need to lose 20 pounds yesterday. You know, it's like tarot is a little bit more intense than oracle cards. So there is a difference there for sure. But I love oracle cards too. No problems there. Okay, so probably the first deck I want to talk about is called this Rider-Waite deck. And I'm sure you've probably seen these cards in many places, many ways. Now in this, it's actually just called the Rider deck, but you'll also hear it called Rider-Waite, and even just in the last 10 or so years, Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So Rider was the publisher. These were published about early 1900s. And they actually came out of the people who did this, came out of the Golden Dawn. And Waite was, I think, probably the inspiration and probably funded the development of these tarot cards. And then Pamela Coleman Smith, also known as Pixie, was the one who did all the illustrations. And she was actually left off. It was called Rider-Waite, as far as I knew, when I first bought cards. So it's a good thing we didn't lose her name to the tarot cards, because she did all the drawings. But I'm sure there was she said she did drawings from her dreams. So I don't know. I'm sure Waite also helped her with inspiration for the cards also. And you're also going to see a lot of inspiration from this medieval deck, the deck from Marseille. For example, well, let me first talk about the B.O.T.A deck, because I'm going to be using that. I'm going to be using this deck because this is the easiest, most common deck you can find. And you'll find some variations on this, and a lot of them are just fine. Make sure if they've got this Rider-Waite-Smith in the title, they're probably close enough that you could get those. And I do encourage you to go to a bookstore and touch the cards, look at them, hold them, that kind of thing. Because what's going to happen is this may be your party deck, or when people just want to goof around with the tarot or something like that. But you may find a deck that you really feel speaks to you personally. And just to let you know, eventually too, you will probably take that special deck. Like I have two decks. Nobody except for the manufacturers have seen those decks, touched those decks. Those are my personal decks. I've got them in a special box, in a special place, and all that kind of stuff. And you'll be doing probably the same thing. And it could very well be this first deck that you buy just becomes infused with your energy. Now, the B.O.T.A, like I mentioned, you can get a deck of tarot cards from them. But when you get a deck of cards from them, they're going to be all black and white, okay? And they'll send you this little book with it, and it's most tarot decks come with a book that explains each card, or as we say in B.O.T.A, we call them keys. But it also has a little menu back here of how to color them. So it'll be just like a coloring book. They'll actually say, put yellow for the sun and put orange around the outside. Here's the colored version. They'll actually give you every color you need for illustrating the card. Now, it's very educational and it's very informative for you to color those cards. I mean, some of us just don't have time, so that's why I'm suggesting this if you just don't have time, or when you're getting started. But as you color those cards, you will kind of be imprinting those images into your brain. And remember how I talked about that right and left side of your brain? That right side of your brain has no verbal skills, so it will be absorbing that information though as you color it in. Now I use color pencil on mine because they also suggest using watercolor, but I was afraid if I use watercolor on these guys it'd end up looking like a gray blob or a brown blob or something like that. So I liked color pencil. It was more neater for me. Okay, so so you will see, so there will be some differences, like in these two cards, the two sun cards. You can see there is a somewhat of a difference there. And if we look at the historical Marseille deck, it looks a little bit more like the B.O.T.A card, with the two children standing in front of the wall of the garden with the sun above and the yods dropping down. So there will be differences, but those two decks are very, very similar. Let's look at like the Hermit. Now there you go. There's two cards that are very similar. This is the Rider-Waite-Smith. This is the B.O.T.A. And then here's that deck, the card from the Marseille. Okay. And so you can identify that that's the Hermit. He's got the lantern, the six-pointed star. He's holding his staff. He has his robes on and that kind of thing. So you can identify that. Sometimes some of these modern decks you can't even tell which is which. They're so different. But this is another very favorite of mine, the Gilded Tarot. And they've come up with one that's even more beautiful than this one. But here again, like when we're looking at the Hermit, it's, we can tell what it is. It's pretty obvious. And here's another deck that's really cool. It's called the Spellcasters, and there's the Hermit there. He's just got a little candle with his lantern hanging around his belt there. But this is a really cool modern spellcaster tarot. But that's where some of these more modern decks do really get a little bit more different, or are different than the historical ones. And like, for example, with the spellcaster, in every deck I've seen, swords are air and wands are fire. But in the spellcaster deck, they've switched that. So you're going to see some differences, but learn these, go with me through these classes, and you'll be able to make decisions about how you want to deal with those differences and things like that. Another real difference in the cards is you'll see, I've got all these cards laying all over the table here. It's like, what are they? When we look at the minor arcana, this is a B.O.T.A deck. Super simple, right? There's 3 wands, there's 4 wands for the minor arcana. And the same for, this is a deck, the Marseille deck. Very simple. These are the 3 wands and 4 wands, and they're just showing those wands. They're not doing anything else with them. Whereas with the Rider-Waite, they've actually gone through and, oh, here it is, and done pictures for all the minor arcana too. So there's a lot that Rider-Waite deck, and those that come out of that lineage do have these more pictures, more information, that kind of thing. Okay, so oh, and just to let you know, I thought this was really cool. I was at the Eiffel Tower once, and I went into the gift shop, and what the heck did they have but a tarot deck in there? And I started noticing when you'd go to like cafes or pubs or whatever in France, there would be like groups of kids. Like I was in Dijon where there's a university there, and there were kids actually playing card games with tarot decks. So the difference between a tarot deck and just a good old playing card deck is that they've melded, there's a page and a knight in all four suits of the minor arcana, and I'll be going over this a lot more specifically. I just kind of want to give you an overview at this point, but they've kind of melded those, the page and the knight, into the jack. And with playing cards, here we go with the clock again. But I just wanted to show you what suits go with which. So when we look at wands, wands are a stick, or they're also called rods. So those are clubs. That makes sense, right? Cups, that's our water. So that's emotion. And of course hearts, that makes sense with the heart suit as being cups. Spades and swords, they got that pointy edge, and they're going to get you with their sword. So those two relate to each other. And then, last but not least, we have diamonds and pentacles. And you think, well, why didn't they just use pentacles? Why did they go from 5 to 4-sided? Who knows? But diamonds are also found in the earth, and pentacles rule the earth. And diamonds could be used for money, and pentacles are also called coins in the minor arcana too. You'll see that. And the only major arcana that made it into the playing deck is the Joker, or the Fool, right? So that's the only one that made it there. Okay, so I think I've gone through a lot of different decks. I just wanted to introduce you to them, so I hope you get your Rider-Waite-Smith deck or something fairly similar to that. Or go ahead and go to the BOTA webpage. The cards are really inexpensive. That's another thing I love about BOTA. They don't charge you an arm and a leg for anything. And you can start coloring your own cards or just playing around with the black and white version for now. So anyway, so I think I'll say adieu for now. And just remember, from there to here, from here to there, funny things are everywhere. Okay, bye guys.